Let me ask you something strange. Have you ever walked into a room and smelled something sharp? Not smoke, not gas, something metallic, bitter, almost cold. And when you ask, do y'all smell that? Everybody looks at you like, no. Because here's the unsettling part. There was nothing burning, no exposed wires, no storm outside. And yet, your body reacted like something dangerous was nearby. Some people describe it as a burnt wire smell. Others say ozone. Others say it smells like the inside of a machine that's been running too long. And then comes the question that keeps them up at night. Why can I smell electricity? This isn't superstition. It's not imagination in the way people dismiss it. Thousands of people report this exact sensation, and many of them hear the same thing from doctors. That's impossible. But the human body doesn't wait for permission from logic. Tonight, we're talking about one of the strangest perception mysteries in human biology, a condition where the brain convinces the nose that something is there, even when the room is empty.
Okay, but hold up. Because if I smell gas, I'm calling the fire department. If I smell wires frying, I'm unplugging everything. So when people say they smell electricity, you're telling me there's nothing there? Because that sounds like either a superpower or a horror movie opening scene.
Exactly. And that's why people don't talk about it. Because the moment you say it out loud, it sounds like you're losing touch with reality.
Clarification. Electricity itself does not produce a smell. However, the human nervous system is capable of generating olfactory perceptions without external stimuli. This phenomenon is real. It is documented, and it is frequently misunderstood. Most individuals experiencing this are not imagining danger. Their brains are interpreting signals incorrectly, while remaining fully conscious.
So they're not crazy. They're just miswired for a moment?
Miswired is an imprecise term. A more accurate phrase would be, the brain is acting as a sensor instead of a translator.
And that's the part most people never hear. Because once you understand that, this stops being scary and starts being revealing. In the next part, we're going to talk about how the brain creates smells, why certain people experience this more than others, and what's actually happening when your body reacts to a threat that isn't physically present. Because sometimes what feels like danger is information trying to get your attention. This is not about fear. This is about perception. And what happens when the human body starts telling the truth before language can catch up. Act 2 is where things get strange. To understand why people smell electricity, we have to start with something simple that most of us never think about. Smell does not happen in your nose. Your nose is just the doorway. The experience of smell lives in your brain. When particles enter your nose, they trigger receptors. Those receptors don't say, this is coffee or this is smoke. They send electrical signals to the brain and say, figure this out. That cluster is called the olfactory bulb. It sits right next to parts of the brain responsible for memory, emotion, and threat detection, which means smell is not neutral. It's emotional, it's historical, it's fast.
So basically, smell is snitching directly to the brain before logic can even get dressed.
Exactly. Smell bypasses reason. That's why a scent can drop you into childhood before you even know why you're emotional.
Additional clarification. The olfactory system is the only sensory system that connects directly to the limbic brain without first passing through rational filtering centers. This makes it uniquely powerful and uniquely vulnerable. When misfiring occurs, the brain may generate a smell without any external chemical trigger.
So that's phantosmia, right? The phantom smell thing?
Correct. Phantosmia refers to the perception of odors that are not present in the environment. The experience is subjectively real. The source is internal.
And here's where electricity enters the story. Not as a smell, but as a pattern. When the brain misfires in certain regions, especially near the temporal lobe, people don't just smell random things. They smell burning, metal, ozone, sharp air after lightning.
Which is wild, because that's exactly how people describe power lines and storms.
Right, because the brain isn't inventing nonsense. It's reaching for the closest stored template that matches the signal it's receiving.
The brain prioritizes pattern recognition over accuracy. When an unfamiliar internal signal occurs, it is matched against previously stored experiences. Electricity is not the source. Electricity is the metaphor the brain selects.
So the nose is innocent. The brain is freelancing.
The brain is improvising, and it's doing so because something in the system is overloaded, irritated, or hyper alert. Which leads us to the real question. Why does this happen to some people and not others? In the next act, we're going to talk about migraines, stress, seizures, and nervous system overload. Not pathology, biology under pressure. Because when the brain stops translating calmly, it starts broadcasting. There's a reason people don't say, "I smell a hallucination." They say, "I smell electricity." Because for most of us, electricity already has a smell in our memory. Not the current itself, but what follows it. After lightning strikes, the air smells sharp and clean. That smell is ozone. It's created when electrical energy splits oxygen molecules and they recombine differently. The brain remembers that smell as danger, followed by relief.
So when someone says they smell electricity, what they're really smelling is the memory of electricity doing something nearby.
Exactly. The brain isn't detecting power lines. It's replaying a stored warning signal.
Important distinction. Humans cannot directly smell electrical current. However, the olfactory system can recreate the sensation associated with prior electrical exposure. This commonly occurs during neurological stress states.
Which means this isn't random. Something has to push the system into that mode.
Correct. Common triggers include migraines with aura, temporal lobe irritation, seizure-adjacent activity, head injury, hormonal shifts, and prolonged nervous system hypervigilance.
And notice what's missing from that list. There's no weak mind, no overactive imagination, no moral failure. This happens when the brain is under pressure.
Migraines alone explain a lot. People think migraines are just headaches, but they're full-on neurological events.
Exactly. Some people smell burning rubber. Some smell smoke. Some smell metal. And a smaller group smells what they can only describe as electricity.
The brain selects the sensory narrative most consistent with prior learning. Individuals with exposure to storms, machinery, or electrical environments are more likely to associate the sensation with electricity.
So, if you grew up around generators, factories, or storms, that's the file your brain opens.
Yes, and here's the important part. The brain does this to protect you, even when it gets it wrong. The smell is not a prediction. It's not a warning of doom. It's a false alarm triggered by real biological stress. Which brings us to the part most people never get to talk about. What it feels like to live with this, and why so many people are dismissed before anyone explains it. Act 4 is about the people behind the symptom. Most people don't talk about this symptom because the first time they do, it doesn't go well. They say something like, "I keep smelling this sharp electrical smell," and the response is almost always the same.
Are you stressed? Are you anxious? Are you sure it's not in your head?
Which is wild, because it is in their head, just not in the way people mean. Many people experiencing this are otherwise high functioning. They work, they raise families, they manage stress, and yet they're told nothing is wrong because scans look normal.
Standard imaging often fails to capture functional disturbances. Many neurological symptoms occur at the level of signaling, not structure. Absence of visible damage does not indicate absence of dysfunction.
Translation for the people in the back. Just because the house looks fine doesn't mean the wiring isn't glitching.
Exactly. And for the person living in that body, the experience is isolating. One woman described it like this: "It smells like the air right before something bad happens, and no one else feels it." Another person said, "It happens right before my migraines. I used to think I was predicting disasters." They weren't. Their nervous system was.
That's the dangerous part right there. When your body gives you a signal but no explanation, your mind fills in the blanks.
Correct. Without accurate context, the brain may assign meaning where none exists. This increases anxiety and symptom severity.
And this is where people get stuck. Not because the symptom is dangerous, but because the interpretation becomes dangerous. Smelling electricity does not mean you're sensing hidden forces. It does not mean something supernatural is attached to you. It does not mean disaster is coming.
It means your nervous system is tired, loud, and looking for language.
Well stated. The symptom is a signal of internal stress, not external threat.
Once people understand that, something interesting happens. The fear decreases. The frequency often decreases. And the body begins to recalibrate. In the final act, we're going to talk about what this condition reveals about human perception itself and why experiences like this matter. Here's the part that changes how you see all of this. Smelling electricity isn't the story. Perception is. The human brain is not a camera. It doesn't record reality.
Which means two people can stand in the same room and live in completely different worlds.
Exactly. Your brain is constantly predicting what's happening next. It uses memory, emotion, stress levels, and past danger to decide what you should be sensing.
This process is known as predictive coding. The brain continuously generates expectations and adjusts them based on incoming data. When stress overwhelms the system, prediction may override perception.
So the brain starts yelling instead of listening.
An acceptable metaphor.
And in those moments, people don't need fear. They need translation. Because symptoms like this aren't signs of failure. They're signs of a system working overtime. When people learn what's happening, something powerful occurs. The brain stops escalating, the signal quiets, and the body remembers how to feel safe again.
Which is wild, because all it needed was context.
Correct. Understanding reduces neurological threat responses. Education is a form of regulation.
So, if you've ever experienced this, you're not broken, you're not predicting disasters, and you're not alone. You're human, and your brain is trying to protect you using the only language it has. The bizarre part isn't that people smell electricity. The bizarre part is how little we're taught about how perception actually works. And once you understand that, the mystery doesn't disappear. It just becomes less frightening.